3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to episode 110 of Ruse Radio. We are back at it again with a very special guest. Special guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ginnel Moore, and thank you so much for having me, Ruse.
Thank you for being here. Ginnel Moore, people are just now, maybe your friends are tuning in, but some people are tuning in. They're like, who is this person? Ginnel Moore. Tell the people who you are and what you do. You're introducing yourself to them. What would you say?
Well, I am a comedian and an artist. Lived in Rogers Park pretty much all of my life. And yeah, if you want to see how freaking bomb I am at this shit, then you need to make sure that you come to my buddies tonight, because it's Sunday Fun Day. End it on a good note. Show starts at 7. It's called Ladies of Laughter. And so, yeah, I would love to see y'all there.
Nice. How often do you do comedy? All the time? You doing it like every single day, or how does it work for you?
Well, it is not a full-time job for me, so would not be doing it every day, but I do performances at least 2 to 3 times a month. That's what I shoot for.
Okay.
I am a parent, so, it's a little more challenging to do more than that. But yeah, you can definitely catch me on the Chicago scene. And if for those of you that do like to travel, I typically travel throughout the Midwest in the summertime. So that's more or less what my comedy schedule looks like.
Nice. And so when you're setting up for a show, like, how do you format your material? Like, is it always something different, or do you have like a set that you've built out like throughout? Like, how does that work for you? What's your set process like?
I actually take into consideration the venue where it's at. So I do have a solid 10 set that I have used if I know it's going to be a mixed audience. And that's what I call it, my mixed audience set. But if it's going to be an audience where it's, more so-called younger people, or we got a lot of, Gen Xers and things like that, I will stick to more current events or social media, because that's kind of the thing right now. And for older people, take them back to the so-called good old days and do little corny boomer jokes.
Yeah. I don't know which camp I'm in. I feel like I would like the corny boomer jokes, truly. I feel like I'm an old person. That's what I'm thinking. You're like, that was great. She made a pun about something. Like, you just make like a stupid word joke. I'm like, that was hilarious. You don't need to woo me with the social political sciences. I'm easy. But yeah, that's fun. Okay, and so you just think of a concept and then just go with it? Like, it's just like any other joke building process, I'm sure, too, where it's like you have an idea and you roll with it and find the idea. Yeah, that's fun. And you've been doing it for a long time, it sounds like. How long have you been doing comedy?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while now, so I'm going into my 5th year of doing comedy.
All right.
Yep.
That's a lot. See, like, I don't even know what the levels are to it, because I remember some guy said to me, like, he asked how long I've been doing music, and it was at a comedy open mic, and I said like 10 years, and I was like, how long have you been doing comedy? He said 29 years. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So, but there's levels to it like that. I think music's the same way. I think everything's the same way, where like you think you're good at first, but you just get better over time. And it amazes me when people say they go to open mics every single day, and I know that like some comedians are like that. Like, some comedians, it's like religion to them. They go all the time. And I guess if you don't have kids and you don't have all those things, that's like the life to live when you can do it. But that sounds crazy to me. Like, it just sounds like so much. I feel like 3 times a month is actually easier on your mind. You can way more easily do that than 7 days a week, 5 days a week. Because that's a regular schedule for a lot of people. I mean, did you ever do it more? Has it always been that same pace? Have you been doing it for 5 years?
So for shows, I'll do shows about 2 to 3 times a month.
So when you say shows, you're like not including open mics and all that.
Yeah, no, not the mics. No, for mics, no, definitely. Because I mean, who's gonna book a shitty comic that ain't like try their material out first? Nah, I'm a bad bitch, but I ain't that bad where I could just roll up there and just spit some shit. That's for somebody who's been doing comedy for like 10 plus years. You can probably think of a joke and it's going to be a solid one. No, when I go to open mics, I do it at least 3 times a week, and depending on like how long I can get someone to watch, the kids, I'll do like 2 mics in a night.
Interesting. And so how does that go with like shows? Do people just see you from open mics, or is it just networking and all of that?
It's a combination, networking, and sometimes if I do a show and they really like what I did, then they'll let me know we want to book you for a future show. So.
I see. Because I mean, that's generally seems to be the way it is. Like even if you're not going to the open mics, like you just naturally meet people at the open mics.
Oh, absolutely.
People who are doing the same thing or people who know the same people. Yeah. Are there some people you've met at open mics that stick out to you, like comedians from Chicago that you think of where you're like, oh, I'm glad I met that person?
Yeah, I mean, if we stick to like mostly like local comedians and folks that just stay in the Chicago area, I would say a lot of the folks from the Glenwood, very communal based, and I can honestly say you'll get honest feedback there when you do your set.
Yeah.
So like the Naboo stands out for me, Matthew Doyle Perez stands out to me, Lane Johnson, and Ron Bloom. He does a lot of producing now, and they're pretty solid folks.
Ron Bloom does? He does producing. What does producing mean?
So like he'll produce shows. So he's transitioned from primarily just like doing comedy himself, and now he produces shows. So like the same show that I was promoting just now, he actually put together that show.
Oh, okay. Kind of like a producer of a movie. Like you're the one who brings everything together.
Yep, organize everything, the promotion, all the things.
That's cool. I think I just got him lined up to be on this show within like the next couple episodes.
I know. You get to see how awesome he is.
He sounds like it's funny that you mentioned him just because multiple people have mentioned him to me. He sounds like a great guy. I know nothing about him. It's like when I go to see a movie, I'm like trying not to do my research. I'm like, he's just gonna wow me. I'll just let it wow me.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. You won't be let down like a little shitty ass B-rated movie.
And you've lived in Rogers Park your whole life, you said too. So that's interesting to me just because I moved here when I moved to Chicago. This is like the place I found. I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like, especially having a dog and all that. It's a great place to have a dog.
Oh, yeah.
The other place I was looking at was Lincoln Park, but Lincoln Park's just a nice area. And it would be it's similar to this sort of, but this is really nice. I'm actually surprised. Like someone said, like, you don't want people to say that it's nice and then have it be on one of those articles where it says this is one of the best neighborhoods because then the rent goes up. That's how it works.
Oh yeah.
But it is actually like that nice. It's a really nice neighborhood. I'm actually I'm happy with myself. So what was it like growing up here?
I know it was pretty good. Like to your point, a lot of the things that people use to like describe what is a good neighborhood, diverse. It's family oriented, but at the same time, it's a good place for like single working professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because there are houses like right there. Like if you actually wanted a house, there's a house right, not even half a mile down the street is where all the houses are.
Yeah, so it was a good combo, and that was kind of my experiences. Good opportunity to meet different kinds of people, and I think that's why I carried over my comedy too. I can work with just about anybody because of that.
And that's important. It's almost like having like a universality to what you're doing. Like it just makes sense in most places because that's kind of what you want if you're going to try to be a famous comedian or a well-known comedian. Like you want people to be able to understand what you are just by looking at you and getting you. Where that's like that's a hard thing to do, to be understandable, because I think people get confused. I think that's why, again, you need to do things for a long time. Like you think you know what you're doing at first, but once you've done it for 5 years, you kind of have like chiseled out this certain, like, did you ever have a different tone or cadence when you were on stage? Was there ever a different approach that you had where you like look back and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I did a typical like newbie mistake, which would just be where you place yourself on the stage. A lot of times I'd be away from the light.
Yeah.
And I'd look back at the clips and
standing
I'm like,
over there in the corner.
Yeah, it's like, bitch, you thought you were killing it. You look dumb as fuck right now in this clip. So, little things like that, and just the importance of making sure you are in the right spot so that way your delivery of the jokes and everything that comes with it is just an overall more solid performance, and then people could take you more seriously.
Yeah. And it's really like connecting with the audience too. Like when you're over there in that spot, no one even knows what you're thinking because you probably weren't even thinking about it that much, and it was just you just in your zone. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a good answer.
A fantastic answer, and allow me to tell you why. Because one does not become a professional mind blower overnight, folks. That's not how it works. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes constant over and over and over again figuring these things out and learning how to blow minds professionally, how to do it delicately. And those of us who figured it out, who paved the way, we got to get a shirt to make ourselves known, to let the people know that we are professional mind blowers for now and for life. And I'm providing you that opportunity. $25 and you can get a professional mind blower t-shirt, folks. We got smalls, we got mediums, we got larges. If you need a different size, just let us know and we'll make it happen. That's $25 with shipping included. It's a great way to support the show, and it's a great way to let the people know who you are. Another great way to support the show, if you're trying to do that, if you like what we're doing here, is the Patreon, folks. We couldn't do this without you. And if you just wanted to do that, if you just wanted to put $5 inside the pot once a month, I tell you, we could make this show an amazing, beautiful production for you guys. I can quit my day job and just stare at screens all day long. Please help me out with that. All right, let's hear more about that stage etiquette.
I've noticed like I'll stare at the ground a lot, and it's just because I have a lot of words to remember. I'm trying to like get in the zone and remember all the words. If I look at you, I might forget the words. So I need to get over that one. That's where I'm at right now.
Fair enough. We all on our journey. That's a very hippie thing to say, but that's some real shit.
It is some real shit. And the thing is, it's a journey. Like, it's not how you did today. It's how you improve and how you get better. And like, you do get better. That's what's so great about it, is you can look back and be like, damn, I did used to be worse. I did used to have things that were worse. You can always improve. I think comedy makes you do that. I think like one thing, I look at comedy and I think like that has to be good for a person, just because if you're a comedian and you're going on stage and people aren't engaging with your humor or laughing, like, it has to be you. You have to be the problem. Yep. Otherwise, how do you ever fix it? Like, how do you ever change that and get them to laugh if you're like, oh no, it's the audience. Like, it's these people. It's not me. It can't be me. You have to be honest with yourself. Other things in life, you can kind of ignore that. But comedy, like, forces you to be honest. You're like, okay, I have to get better. Are there any like bad sets? Are there any like particular bad sets that stand out? Like where it was like so bad? Do you ever have like low points in comedy, or has it always been blue skies?
Oh, anybody who says it's been blue skies is a fucking lie and a half. Like, that's with anybody. You'll always have that time where like you just bomb, but like you learn, you get over it. So definitely had that happen. But what I liked about it, though, I'm not gonna lie, it was nice knowing that I bombed, just because it wasn't that the jokes necessarily were bad. It was just people were not expecting to hear comedy. So I could live with that shit. You know, I went to the venue. The majority of the performers were musicians, and so that was kind of just what the audience had seemed to expect, and they totally forgot that it was like an open arts type of event. So yeah, booze happened before I even opened my mouth. It was great.
What kind of music was it?
Various local hip hop artists and R&B singers, and so when you're vibing and smoking at the same time, it's like you don't want to have to listen to a comedian and actually have to think as to whether or not you like the joke.
Really?
It's fucking up your vibe. So
yeah. That's interesting, because I was thinking like it'd be cool to put together a show where it's a bunch of comedians and a bunch of artists, but maybe that wouldn't. Was it like a bunch of artists and then you, like, maybe if they put a couple other comedians between the artists, it would have been a little different.
Yeah, that
pace it out.
Yeah, and the person who produced the show did think about that too. It was like I could do that and include more comedians so that people who support my events know that it is like an all forms mic and keep that in mind going in, or keep it as is and just mostly working musicians. So
and that's what they did, was plan B. See, yeah, I think that's where it goes wrong, because then that's when you prime it for failure. The comedian
100%.
comes out and they're like, what am I doing here? I've just heard never perform comedy at a venue not made for comedy. Like, that's just a principal rule. That's I'm pretty sure that has to be right. Like, music, I think you can get away with it, but like doing comedy at like an award show, like that's like almost impossible. You can't really do that. Like, doing comedy at if you had to do comedy at a wedding, you're probably gonna suck. If I feel like a wedding would be another one where it'd be like, what do you joke about? Like the people in the room.
Well, it depends. I would agree with you. I've definitely talked to other comedians, and it's hit or miss. Some absolutely love it because you can make good money.
Oh, they do weddings.
Yes, there are a few. And then you have other comedians, though, where to your point, they'll say, I don't want to do it because it's like, well, what do I really talk about? But for the ones that do say that they like it, not only do they get paid good money, but like they typically know the bride and groom. So they just like will either roast the bride and groom if they are the type of people who like roast style comedy.
Yeah.
Or do a whole set on like marital advice and just talk a lot of shit about, stereotypes of when it comes to being married. So, like everything else, some good experiences, some bad. For me, I haven't done any weddings, but if I got offered, I'd probably do it. And I'd do the same thing, roast the bride and groom.
Yeah, that seems like the best way to go. I mean, like, that's just... that's an unforgettable experience. At your wedding, they just totally hate on you.
Hey, man, you can't poke fun at yourself. You ain't ready for life. Shit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That would be a good time. That makes a lot. I didn't even consider that, like roast comedy at a wedding. That's actually hilarious. The more I think about it, the funnier it is. I would totally pay for that. I really would. I didn't know people offered this.
Oh, yeah.
Roast comedy is coming back, too. Like, that's my general observation, is it wasn't as big, like, 10 years ago. Okay, coming from the hip-hop community, rap battles have always been cool. Those were never, ever not cool. But, like, roast battles, there were the roasts that were on, like, Comedy Central, and that... I'm sure they did roasts, like, smaller roasts at, like, venues and things like this. There's no way they didn't. But when it's, I want to say, was it a roast battle that was like a televised show? Something happened around like 2016, 2015. Like that, I feel like, is when comedy roast battles became big. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Do you know the roast battle history better than me? Because I don't know.
I mean, I didn't really follow it that intensely like that. But I can only speak to what goes on in Chicago because that is primarily, where I work. And I would say that roast battle comedy is always really popular because it's just very interesting to see each comedian's take on the other person.
Yeah.
Most of the battles happen at Zanies, and so people are always rushing to go and see who's going to be the next person that is like going to be king of like just roasting everybody alive. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, because that's what I was like noticing here is it's like a big thing here, but it's just because there's a big comedy scene too. Like, I don't know, maybe there is like big roast communities all over the place. Like maybe there's a big one in all these other comedy hubs. Like in LA, they have their own roast.
Oh yeah, like people will fly out. It's like full blown tournaments. I've seen people that have flown out, like it's recorded, it's posted on YouTube, gets thousands of likes. Like that is a way a lot of people actually get real exposure as a comedian
with the roast battles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised to see that because I was like, oh, they're really doing content here. But now I can see how with just if you're a comedian around here that can work with that kind of humor, that is like a big platform in its own way. That it's cool like that. And again, it's its own thing. It's kind of its own version of comedy because it's an art in itself. You have to be mean, but you have to be mean creatively. That's kind of the hard part. You have to insult them in a way that's like artful. You can't just call them fat. You have to find a good way to say it.
Yeah. No, a really good one actually. This dude was like this big pun looking ass nigga. It was so funny.
That's a great description.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it wasn't like, to your point, it wasn't like you're just fat, but he found a really nice way of like throwing shade at him.
That's all you can do. That's because in a roast battle, it has to kind of be true. You have to look at them and be like, you know what, they have a point. Mm-hmm. Those roast battles are great. again, with like the comedy being honest with yourself, I think it's a great example. Like if
Yep.
someone's making fun of you in your face, you do have to, like you said, it's the real world. Like you have to accept it. You know what? Maybe I do look like the sloth from Ice Age. Maybe it's true. Maybe that is me. You haven't done any of these roast battles though.
No, I mean I plan to next year because I'll have more opportunities. Like let's say I advance to the next round, like that's the thing, making sure that I can be present for that. Because in all honesty, it's not worth it to do it if you find that you're successful, but then you can't make these tournaments and these matches. It's like, then what's the point? So I've got more wiggle room now in the following year, so I'll probably look to do that.
Okay. And because it seems like they schedule them all the time. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like once a month or something. I know they just did a show like last week. I could have swore because I follow some of these people, and so on Instagram I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, they just did a thing.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of the clips are actually pretty funny.
Well, and it's not. Yeah, again, like you said, it's cool that they do that because I mean, it's like if they give you the show for free, pretty much. That's what that is. Like you're getting a good portion of it for free. And they post the whole thing. Like if you go to YouTube, it's the whole full roast battle. Like they'll post a bunch of them, which is a great idea. It blows my mind. Like people don't do that. Like I think if I were a comedian, I would post every set always. But I think I don't know. It's probably against the rules. Because like, do you ever like think of like if you were to do a special, do you have like a 60 minutes where it's like your best material? Do you know like what that would be? Like, do you have like a 30 minutes? Like if you had to do your best 30 minutes?
I mean, I wouldn't say I am like there yet. So like this year I did have an opportunity to headline. So to your point, now I'm working on that.
Yeah.
Because you also have to think too, okay, you do your best jokes, but then you need to make sure you've got stuff in your arsenal so that when you are doing another special, you've got a whole fresh set of just solid jokes where you are constantly getting the number of laughs that you should per minute.
That's a good point. Like you don't want to just use all your best stuff and then have nothing.
Yeah, well, you just have to make sure that you're intentional and knowing that if I'm using this material, then I'm already have stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah, I remember there was a comedian that I listened to one of his like must have been an album or something. Maybe it was on YouTube. But I remember I was listening to it with my mom in the car when we were on vacation once, and me and my mom went and saw this comedian live. And I remember live, like the last bit he did, I think he just ran out of the stuff that he was doing. And so he had another 10 minutes. So he did the joke from the thing that me and my mom listened to. And it was like listening to a song from a musician. Like, 'cause it wasn't that different. It was basically the same bit, like almost down to a T. I just remember thinking, it's kind of like what you said. Like, where if he had a bunch of new stuff teed up, like he could have at least pulled something out. But it was like I was hearing that song again. It was like, all right, I know where this is going. It was still fun. It was still a fun joke. It was like, oh, I'm hearing that thing he said live about the airlines.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to be that person because then at that point, people are just giving you the pity laughs. That ain't the type of shit you want.
Yeah. I was just having a great time. I was just rolling with the punches. I was like, I'll listen to this one again. What's that part about the guy? But it is better to have like the new thing. And the hard part would be, so I saw just on a video like yesterday, the day before, this guy named Crackalack that I follow. He's been on this show, but Crackalack's awesome. He does like advice for music artists and advice for people who are doing social media or anything really. And he's like made his own studio. He's like done all these things. I really recommend following him. But he was talking about how like people get upset that they're not popular right now, but really what you're doing right now is you're building a resume. Like you're building a big portfolio of things to where like if someone's going to reach out to you in 5 minutes from now, like you're going to get everything you want 5 minutes from now. Do you have a solid enough thing to present to these people? Because all these people are going to start looking at you right away. Like, oh my gosh, you're really successful. And all these people are following you. And the biggest comedians that you could think of are reaching out to you. Do you have your good enough material to go and get those laughs per minute for a good hour and another hour and another hour as you go to all these places? Because if you don't, then maybe you do need another like 3 years to get better. Like you actually do need that. but it's hard to think of things that way because everybody just wants to be successful. So I think that's a good way to look at things, though. Is like you could have more material. You can always build this mountain of material so you can pull things out, but that's hard to do. Especially if you're like an aspiring person who's like, oh, I'm going to be successful. I want to be successful. Because some people aren't like that. Some people are cool with like, oh, I'm a smaller comedian. I'm just having a good time. Whereas some other people are like looking at all these other famous comedians thinking, how do I be that? Like, I know that's me. I know I'm like the guy who's like, they're going to know me. I'm a star. Where I know other people aren't like me. And they just want to have a good time. Like, which on that scale from one to the other, which would you say you are? Are you like, do you have like giant dreams where you want to be like the biggest comedian ever? That's 10. Or is it like more like 1 where you're just chill and you're happy and it's just like a good time? Because like on the scale of comedy fame, where is like where you'd want to land, where you'd comfortably land to be happy?
I'd be fine with an 8.
It's pretty high up.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
I mean, I don't want the 10 because the 10 comes with all the other things that most commercially successful comedians have to deal with, which is like lack of privacy, constantly being scrutinized for the quality of your jokes, and more so in a way where it feels very opportunistic. Like, I always think about like Dave Chappelle, for example. I'm like, Is he definitely considered a GOAT within the comedy, scene? Of course, that is not debatable. But the issues that come with it, constantly, being just deeply analyzed for all the jokes that he tells. And that's not to say that, like, people who have found fault from it, don't have a valid reason to be offended, but like for me, that's why I don't care for that. Like an 8 is great. You're clearly doing shit and you're known, but you still don't have to worry about that constant like surveillance. Yeah. And I would have to agree with a lot of commercially successful comedians, which is that level of surveillance is also what kind of is killing comedy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Why do you think that?
Well, again, like using Chappelle as an example, you constantly have to question then, is this going to be the joke that causes me to get slapped in a lawsuit? Is this going to be the joke that causes me to lose like 1 million followers on Instagram, or just my fan base is going to shrink and I can't sell out shows the way that I used to because I told this one joke and I can't really backpedal from that. And
do you think he thinks that way, or like, do you think that's his mindset, or do you think he just tells whatever jokes he's going to tell?
I know at this point he just tells whatever joke that he wants to, because again, if you have a certain level of success, you can get away with that. I mean, I don't personally know the guy, but from what I can tell, with the jokes that he's told, that was considered problematic and it was highly publicized. Yeah, I don't blame him. He ain't give a fuck. He just kept doing his thing, and I mean that's all you can do.
It's the same thing you would have expected from Dave Chappelle 15 years ago.
Oh yeah,
that's truly what it is. Like if you knew what Dave Chappelle was then, you would not be surprised looking at him now.
Exactly.
It's the same edgy type of humor. Like truly, it's not that different from what he's always been. And I always liked Dave Chappelle. Like the Chappelle Show's a classic. Mm-hmm. It really is. Like if you like skit comedy especially, like that is some of the most golden like dark humor skit comedy there ever has been.
Oh yes.
I don't know if you like Whitest Kids You Know.
Oh yeah,
that show,
I love it.
I grew up with that show and like a little bit of Chappelle's Show, but I know Whitest Kids You Know probably wouldn't exist without something like Chappelle's Show. Like that was a certain era of skit comedy. It's that and now it's like YouTube kind of took that over, I guess, like 5 or 10 years later, but it's never been the same. Key and Peele kind of did some skit comedy. I'm telling you, nobody was doing crackhead skit comedy but Dave Chappelle.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He was a crackhead.
Yep, Ashy Larry was the best. Ashy Larry, and yep, when he was that crackhead. Those are 2 golden characters for me.
When I was 8 years old, I was watching that, like, this is good stuff. This is hilarious. So, and I think that's a great way to grow up, to see crackhead Larry on the Chappelle Show. So but again, I can totally see what you're saying. Like that makes sense. If it's like, I'm looking at this and I don't want that level of fame because that would be too much. People are scrutinizing every single move I make. Like that actually is a great point. At that point, I feel like even like an 8's a bit much. I think you'd actually want to be like a 5 or a 6 on like the level of fame. Because once you're too famous, people just start to, I feel like that's when people start to turn on you for no reason. They're just like, someone told me what Dave Chappelle was, and now I hate you, Dave Chappelle. Like they aren't even really mad at you. They never actually watched your stand-up set. They just heard what the stand-up set was. They're like, oh, you probably suck. That's how it goes when you're that famous.
Yep.
It would suck. You know, I hear like Mr. Beast talk about being famous, and it's funny because he'll say like, when I was at 10 million, when I was at 10 million followers, I thought I was famous. And now I'm at like 150 million followers and like I can't do anything anywhere.
Yep.
And that's like a crazy thing to hear anyone say because he is one of like the most famous people in the world now. And he got that famous like within 5 years. Like 10 million followers is a shit ton, but 150 million is crazy. And so like, you don't want 150 million. You probably don't even want the 10. You might not even want 1. Like 1 million followers is a lot of people. Like those people are going to care and they have this, what drives me crazy is I think people have this version of you that they create in their head. So like that's the problem is they think you're this thing when really you've just been yourself and that's what's making it work. But they've created like, oh, I expect them to say this type of thing. And that's what they're going to be like. And that's where that's where it gets you every time is like, there's too many people with the wrong idea of what you are. I am of the firm belief you don't even know what you are. And we're all just finding it. And that's the fun part is like, we're all just finding it all at once. And that's what makes it so fun. But people get it wrong and they think like, oh, you're this guy. Why are you going out here and doing this now? I don't know. And it's like music. Comedy's like music where comedians change and musicians change. I mean, are there any comedians that you've like that have grown on you over time that you didn't like before that you like now?
I would say Ali Wong.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I probably I didn't like Mark Norman's sense of humor at first because I thought, why is that guy talking like that? Is this a joke? Is he trying to trick me? And then I realized he just had a voice that was like he just has a voice. I'm like, oh, that's who he is. He's not playing a character. And then I liked him. That literally is what it was. I was like, is this a thing? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I would agree. That was the same thing. So, like, I started to really follow Ali Wong more closely after her specials, like Baby Cobra and things like that.
Yeah.
Those specials that she shot when she was, pregnant.
That was a little while ago now, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that was a while ago. But I would say, like, okay, I saw those and I was like, it's all right. But I wasn't really too bananas about it. It actually wasn't until she started doing, like, her later specials, like, post-pregnancy. And that's when I was like, oh, that's actually pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, even the one that she dropped just this year, absolutely hilarious. She did her own take on what it was like, dating post-divorce and like how, channeling that inner mom energy is like just getting her mad dick. And I thought it was just priceless that she said she wanted to get fucked so good she get fucked so concussion. I was like, this is pure gold. that act out, a bitch was falling on the floor after that act out. She was just like, I'm like, and she created a beautiful picture in your head of her being like dick hammered in the brain. So she could not think straight. It was glorious.
Yeah. And that, folks, is why you need to do comedy for 20 years. You figure those things out. That is great. That's great. That's a fun one.
Yep.
Wow. So if you had to think about that, like, people who are physical with comedy, do you ever think like would you be more physical or are you more of like a verbal comic? Like, do you move around or are you just more like you just stand there and kind of say your jokes? Like, which one would you be on that one?
Well, I'm more of a physical comedian. More people have told me like very animated, seems more theatrical, and my style is more storytelling than anything else.
And how so when it comes to storytelling, like are you doing like 3-minute stories, like 5-minute stories, or is it just like quick little stories? Like, how does that work? Like do you have like a whole like story that you'll build out for 5 minutes for your whole set is what I mean, or for like a
it'll be just that I'll build out a whole story for 5 minutes, or even like a topic. Just the way that I deliver the jokes is more of a like storytelling format.
Yeah, because I had Marco Sereno on here a little bit ago, and he mentioned something to me about like he'll have jokes that are separate, but he'll find ways to string them together into one big story, and that makes the audience more into it. Like he's just noticed that they follow along better because he made it all sound like oh, today I did this, and then later I did this, and then later I did this, which is like genius to me. I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense, rather than splitting it all up and having it be segmented. Like you can turn it all into one big story. Yeah, storytelling is an art too. Storytelling is a real art because it's kind of like you have to remember the rule of keeping it simple. That's kind of a big part of storytelling. You can't mention a million different details and go into everything. A good story is concise.
Yep.
And like, do you have any like golden stories from do you have like any stories that do you use a lot? Do you know a good one?
I like to do the bit when I went to college. So I'll always tell people like, so I went to Cornell College, and for those of you that don't know, it is a traditionally white school. So when I stepped foot on their campus, a bitch did make history. I boosted their enrollment by 2%, their sociology program by 70%, and their diversity by 100%. Yes, bitch. And if you weren't excited about that, well then fuck you. You're racist. I liked being the only black kid on campus so I could teach all the white kids how to dance. Yeah, that joke right there usually lands.
It's like having superpowers, like the only black kid on campus. You have so much to teach them.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea. This is called soul food. You will love it.
Yes, there are more exciting things to eat besides mayonnaise. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah, us white people are struggling on that one. Like, trust me, we don't have it good. We basic things. I cook steak with no seasoning sometimes. In like a speed effort. It's playing games with me right now. Sorry, folks. We had technical difficulties. We're back. I think so. We won't have to do any fancy editing. This show is a professional production. You did just hear what we just said, but now you have video again. If you're listening on audio, you have no idea what happened. You're like, nothing happened at all. I don't even know what just happened right now. But I'm telling you that something crazy went down. A bomb went off outside. We had to go figure it out. That's the technical difficulty. But I mean, like, okay. So I guess just like, I should ask you this. What are like some roadblocks that you've had in the comedy scene? Like if you were telling an amateur comedian, like, hey, look out for this type of stuff. Like what's some stuff that you've learned along the way? Some wisdom you could give someone?
The importance of professionalism, even in a field that a lot of people consider to be very lax and casual. I find that to be very common with like comedians who just start getting booked, that they feel like they don't necessarily have to follow a certain etiquette when it comes to like canceling last minute. Like, they're not very apologetic about it. Don't necessarily make an attempt to find like someone to step in for them, things like that. So just being mindful of that, because like that's how you burn bridges.
Yeah.
There's a surplus of comedians, so it's like no one's gonna beg for you to come back if like that's the way you carry yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And people don't realize they're doing it when they're doing it. Like that's the thing, is they just think like they're just like getting in and out and all that, but like they don't or they think it's cool, like they're gonna forgive me. But it is like a long-term thing. It's kind of like the butterfly effect of your actions in a way. Like you don't even realize, because that person might get a bad idea of you and you just lost like 10 different opportunities just somehow by that happening. Like opportunities you wouldn't have even known that you were going to have in the future. They just like whizzle away.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. And that goes for a lot of things. Like it's just better to have a good impression. Like just make a good impression. You don't gotta you'll be all right.
Exactly.
And if you make a commitment too, like that's the other thing. Like people, it's hard to schedule these shows. Like when you schedule a show and you get everything together like that, it's hard to just have somebody back out last minute. Like that actually puts the person who put everything together in a weird position, because now it's like, oh, I had this set list that was like everyone's going to be on for 30 minutes, and now I have this big block open.
Yep.
Like that person probably has like 3 people they can call in that situation. Like if they need like a backup comedian to show up last minute, that's probably what you would do. You'd like have a lifeline to fall back on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good, to your point. It's good to at least be able to offer that lifeline, so that way the producer of the show doesn't really have to try to figure that out on top of all the other logistics for the show.
Yeah. So. Yeah, the producer. I just learned that was a job today at the beginning of this podcast. I didn't even know there was producers of shows. That's cool. That'd be a cool job. It's kind of like the MC, like the guy who brings it all together. You're like the mad scientist. Because like I produced one show before. Like I put the whole thing together. And then it was called the Midsummer Cash Bash. And it was like a money giveaway, because I knew if we just say we're giving away money, people are going to come. If I say everyone who comes has a chance of winning $300, one person's going to win $300 at the end of the night. It's a trick, because everyone's going to stay till the end of the night now. Like anybody who wins has to be there at the end of the night. I'm saying you have to stick around or else you might not win money. It was genius. And so I just need to do that a couple more times. But that was fun, because like when you're at the show, you're like, oh, I made this happen. Like this came together because of me. That's a good feeling. It's cool. It's cool to even just be doing anything on a stage. I mean, like, wow, these people are just standing here watching me. Like, they're really wasting their time on this. I mean, with comedy too, any other lessons that you've learned? Are there any other ones? Any good ones? That's a good one that you just gave me. That one, I will remember that one. I can use that one. Don't not show up.
I guess also have some sort of plan on how you want to achieve whatever it is you would like to do long term. So it's not unusual to hear someone say, I want to be famous, but there is like no idea of what milestones that person wants to hit to get there. So I would also be, conscious of that when you're starting out. If that's your end goal, I mean, that's cool, I guess, but like, how are you going to make that happen?
Yeah. So, and again, like people want to be famous right away. Like people have like an idea of like, I just want to be popular, but like you don't even, what I always say is people who are popular that you like you look at those people still have to like try all the time. Like there's never a point, like for me, okay, Kendrick Lamar is the best rapper ever. Like I'm thinking that guy is like amazing, like literally the best. Like I can't even think of anybody better. Like he's actually that good. And then he's still making amazing songs. Like every couple years, he'll just come out with another amazing album, or he'll just do something where it's like, oh my God, like you still have to prove you're the best. Just like comedy, you can't be the best comedian and not be dropping new material all the time. Just like everything. And you can't just be the best and that's it. Like you have to constantly prove it to yourself and to everybody else that you still got it. You are that person. And if you don't get that, like if you just want to be popular, then it's never going to really work, because like even if you were popular, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You'd be like, oh, what is all this? And I think one thing too is like social media has kind of screwed people up a little, in the sense that they get this idea of like they'll see something go viral, they'll get a popular piece of content, and then they'll kind of drill into that and do the same thing. And that's kind of not what it usually is. Usually what it really is you're going on a stage and you kind of find it through that, like the art itself, not just this one bit you did that got really popular on social media and went viral. Like that's not the same thing as like chiseling out your art form and getting better. Like, those are two completely different things. But people get it confused, and it's sad to me, because like people will start doing a thing, like they'll just fall into a certain method of doing it, and it's like they are really creative. Like you could be really creative. it's hard to do a stand-up, I'm sure. I'm sure stand-up is hard to find your voice, like your rhythm and all of that. I've never done it. I can only imagine. Are there people that you see struggle that you want to help, or like do you, do you ever see like struggling comedians on the stage and go, "Oh no, poor kid"? There's this one guy I've seen at open mics where it's like I'll see him and he pulls out his notes and he'll desperately read from his notes, like desperately. It's actually kind of sad because of the way he does it. Like you can tell he's like, oh shit. Because if he was just being chill about it would be different. If he was just like, oh no, but he'll like make little like self-deprecating comments in between it. He'll be like, he'll say the joke and be like, oh no, that one sucks. It's like, bro, we're all just in your bedroom as you're workshopping these jokes right now. We're all just standing in. It's kind of fun. At the same time, it's kind of sad. I feel bad for him. He's not. I don't think he's confident. I just don't think he's confident.
Yeah. No, I mean for comedians like that, I almost feel like it's condescending to a certain extent to just say I'll help you out, because at the end of the day everybody's on their comedy journey. But one way that I can say that I offer collaboration and like a listening ear. I host a writer's room workshop, like on every the last 2 Sundays of the month. So like I do the 3rd and 4th Sundays. I do it in collaboration through the Newbie. And I co-host with Kaya Osborne, who's also goes by like Bad Bitch of Color when she does comedy.
Oh, I know Kai.
Yeah, so that I would say is how I, offer support to someone, because then at least I know the person's
Is it
asking
Kai
for
or
it.
Kaya?
Kaya.
I just said Kai.
no,
Let me
that's
correct
all-
myself.
Yeah, no,
Kaya.
that's all
I knew
good.
your name, obviously. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and so how does that show work though? How does setting that up work?
Well, it's not necessarily a show. So
Or I'm sorry, how does setting up the writing room work?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So it's a writer's workshop. We call it the Glenword. And so what we do is we will start off the sessions with a couple of warm-up exercises just to get the juices flowing. There's always a portion.
like stretching.
Yeah, I mean, you got to exercise your mind first before you crank out the jokes. And then after that, there's always a part of the session where people have an opportunity to run their material. But at least when I host it, I make sure that I specifically ask folks that are already telling me that they want to come, what exactly it is that they want to work on. So for example, if you're someone that wants to work on crowd work, I'm going to make sure that I have material specifically for that and just share like what I know to work for me, what has worked for people who are commercially successful comedians, and kind of just let that person like try it out themselves afterwards. And so that's the way that the workshop is primarily ran.
Okay. And
I'm sorry.
oh, that's okay. But let me think here. So somebody like comes in, because someone just described to me what a workshop is. So I'm
Yeah.
imagining it's like I'm going in, I have this bit that I have that I've already done before, I just made, and I'm telling it to you, and then we try to like punch it up and make it better. Like that
Yes.
essentially is what it is. Like, and what you're saying is you're helping make it like this is what would work in these contexts. Even like you kind of help them contextualize the joke better. Even that's a good way to look at it too. See, that's interesting. And so this is like a thing that comedians do. Like they go to these writing workshops and it's with other comedians. That's the other important aspect of it. You're like bouncing your ideas off of each other. Right? It's always other comedians. It's not like...
Yes, I mean, ours obviously is not going to be as, high stakes or structured as, a comedian that is paying for a writer's workshop, obviously, you know, and that would land with someone who's been doing comedy at least for 10 years or has already established a name for themselves as like being someone that like consistently, writes jokes well and has written jokes for other comedians. So, like, for example, on Instagram, I saw a post like Jay Leno was offering a writer's class, for example. So, like, and that's not to say that you have to have that level of success to charge, but the point is he's been doing it for a long enough time and has the credentials to charge. Now, we obviously don't charge, but we also make it a point, to have people who've been doing comedy for, at least like 4 or 5 years running the writers workshop.
Oh, that's cool though. That's still a lot of experience.
Yeah. And again, all levels though welcome. It's not like an elitist like bad like Mean Girls Club, where it's like fuck off. You can't sit at the cool kids table.
Tryouts for the writers' room.
Yeah.
And what's the name of this again? What is the name of
we nicknamed it the Glenword, but we hosted at the Glenwood, so that's why Naboo came up with that actually. But
Glenword sounds like Squidward's cousin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But that is,
I like that name.
Yeah, but that's why we decided to go with that, because obviously we host the sessions at the Glenwood. When it's cold, do virtual format, but
yeah,
typically that's where it's held. Yeah.
And like, has there been times where like you learn about your like how to do your jokes better through these classes? Even like, do you participate in it too? Do you give them your jokes?
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds fun. That sounds like a good time. Do you ever like not want to take the advice? Is it ever like, no, they're wrong, like my joke is good and they just don't get it? Does that ever happen?
Hell no. I'm not arrogant enough to be like, man, fuck what you got to say. Actually, a lot of times when I get the feedback, the joke is executed way better after I make the changes. So no.
Interesting. So it is like an effective thing. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Comedians would be the best people to talk to about it.
Yep.
Because like deep down, you can only understand something on like a general base until you've done it for so long. You can only kind of get the face of it. Truly. Like, I could never do plumbing. If that makes any sense to you guys. And like comedians, I guess, because we did our local shout outs. Are there any big comedians that you look out to and you're like, damn, like, I guess Dave Chappelle, he's probably a good influence for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like that he's his authentic self. I like a bunch of different people. I like Hassan Minhaj because he does a great job of like making fun of politics in the world in a way that's not like condescending or already been done. It's like, it's just his take. And
what show does he do?
So I'm not sure if he is still doing it because I haven't followed him as closely, but I know like he did a bunch of Netflix specials lately, and prior to that, I think he was on The Daily Show a couple times, but
yeah, that's what I was remembering him from, was The Daily Show.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't sure if that was right or not.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what he did prior to that, but for me, like I said, I really started to take notice when he started doing his Netflix specials, and I thought that was hilarious. So I like Jim Gaffigan too. Like I said, I'm kind of all over the place. So I just like anybody who really seems like they are themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is when you can be yourself well enough. Like the people who do it best. There's a song that I have where I say, the message is in the method. And when I think about that, I think that that's what that's saying, is like, you have to look at the people who do it the best way and understand why it is that they can do it that way. Because there's something like universally understandable about those people. Like, oh, they're just comfortable on a stage. Like, there's something, they don't have that inner thing that shuts themselves down and makes themselves act awkward. That doesn't happen to them when they're on a stage. They're just naturally themselves. And if you can find a way to tune your personality into that, you will get better at what you're doing. It's just like a natural lesson you learn from all these people.
Absolutely.
Like a comedian I like a lot, Theo Von. Theo Von's great at that.
Oh, yeah.
He's gotten a lot more popular over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous. It's like kind of like a band. Like when you first start liking them, like you place your stake in the ground. Like I think I started liking Theo Von around like 2016. He was still like relatively obscure enough compared to now, because now everybody kind of knows who you're talking about. Back then it was like, oh, I just found this guy on YouTube. This guy's cool. I think it was like right after he was on. I probably found him through Joe Rogan. It's probably the first time he was on Joe Rogan, if I have to guess. Because, I mean, that's a lot of those comedians. Like, even Shane Gillis. A lot of people found Shane Gillis through Joe Rogan, his first Joe Rogan appearance. I mean, there was the SNL thing, but like before that, most people didn't know Shane Gillis.
Yep, you're right.
So, but again, Shane Gillis, same thing. He's just really good at being himself, and he's made that his thing. With Mark Normand, again, I thought he was just being weird. It's like, oh, he's just being himself. But that's an art. That's the art form, kind of, in a way, is learning to just be yourself. That's really hard. Dave Chappelle, at his own peril, he is himself.
Yep.
Who are some like classic comedians? One person I always like, Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is fantastic
Bill
at
Hicks
that.
is good.
Really good at that. Like just being himself and going out there and just saying things that are like, oh damn, he's right. But that's what's funny about it. It's not like he's playing a bit, really. I mean, sometimes he is. George Carlin's another one people think of that way, I'm sure.
Yep.
He just said things that he felt.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got a whole segment of like words that you shouldn't say, like you're dead and gone, and people still remember that.
Yeah.
that was top notch for me.
that's I think that's what's so memorable about it is like it's just true. You're just right. I'm trying to think of other like great comics that do that. There was he passed away. He was a bigger guy. He was black. He was around 2010. He was on Opie and Anthony a lot.
Are you talking about Bernie Mac?
No, I'm not.
him.
But he's a good one too. Yeah, I'm not gonna remember it. I hear his name and then I always forget it, and I haven't really dived into his stuff, so I'm not gonna remember. But he's great. I can tell you that much. People always like, he used to do Opie and Anthony, and I know he used to do like the relationship advice things, and he would just like jokingly answer. Oh, you know who was a good one? Norm Macdonald. He's a good example.
Norm Macdonald's awesome.
And everybody loves Norm Macdonald. Like everybody. It's hard to find people who don't like him because he's just that good.
Oh yeah.
He's like a Jedi warrior of comedy. I think Norm Macdonald is one of the best. Like truly, it's so sad that he died, just because he would still be just as good today. Like he was always the best. But yeah, nobody else on your list? Nobody I didn't mention?
No, a lot of people you mentioned I like. I also like Tiffany Haddish again, just kind of brings a lot of her past into her stand-up and her acting and things like that. Let's see, who else? I think that's it for my list. Like I said, I would literally be here all day if I had to name the amount of comedians that I like, because they all just, like I said, they're the ones that I really appreciate are themselves, and they kind of just bring their own flavor. Like I even like Fluffy. Fluffy's amazing. Like his thing is impressions, but a lot of it is tied to his life and his experiences. It's great.
When you say Fluffy, is there a comedian named Fluffy?
Yeah.
I was thinking Gabriel Iglesias because I'm not fat, I'm fluffy. Is that?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, you are talking about Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my friends, I used to have a friend who was really into him. I think he's great. It's just a fun time.
Yes.
Like people have their version of comedy, just like people have their version of you. So some people get mad at that kind of comedy. They're like, oh, this isn't real comedy. Like Gabriel Iglesias is a great time.
Oh yeah,
it's a great time.
You're never disappointed when you watch him.
He's just being
or at least
silly.
for me.
I love him. I love him. But yeah, he's a good one. He's a really good one. Jeff Dunham was like really big around the time that Gabriel Iglesias was big. Like comedy in like the early 2010s was a whole different scene as it is now. Like it was Gabriel Iglesias and Jeff Dunham with the puppets. Like that was the world of comedy on DVDs and on Comedy Central. Like it was not what you see now. It was a different era. It was Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy back then.
Yeah.
That was what was up.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's different now. Did you ever see the Larry the Cable Guy movies? Did you ever see those?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that, nobody batted an eye, but now definitely a lot of backlash with the content now that I'm thinking about it. I'm like, damn, bitch, that would not have aged well. Like,
I haven't rewatched it in a while.
do it and you'll know what I mean. You'll be like, she's fucking right. Like, this motherfucker gets sued right and left. Like, hella lawsuits. People saying, oh, you know, you're fucking marginalizing people. Oh, we're never the end of it.
Yeah, I think they got to double down and bring it back.
Hey.
New Larry the Cable Guy movie.
Yeah, but one that's like 2025 friendly, that's for sure. Like I said,
Yeah.
certain things, it's like, all right, you're asking to burn a lot of bridges with that one.
And Jeff Foxworthy, I don't even know where he's at anymore either now that I think about it. I think these guys have just like retired on their beautiful comedy pasts. I think they know better than to like come back and do it again. I don't even know if I think if I something a redneck. I know I'm a redneck because, how does the joke go? The Jeff Foxworthy bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know it verbatim.
Oh, this is how you know you're a redneck. You know you're a
Got you.
redneck if you could probably still pull that off. That one still probably flies.
Yeah, that's true, especially if it's a blue collar crowd.
I think everybody likes that. It's okay to make fun of rednecks. Like everybody's kind of okay with that.
No, it is. And no, I agree with you. I just know in particular when I hear stuff like that in those types of audiences, that's when the most laughs land. Because they seem, I guess because they feel seen, I'm not sure. But when I have seen comedy specials though, to your point, where that is the focus.
Yeah.
The biggest laughs come from working class, like blue collar type of individuals.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
They're like, I am a redneck. Deep down, that's me.
Yep.
That actually is me. Let's talk about me. But they're not a redneck, but they are. Like deep down, they are. Sometimes I think deep down, I might be. Deep down, I might be like the trailer trash for real. And I'm proud of it. I did punch a wall as a kid. I did. You know what? That's fine.
It's funny.
And then is there any like are there any, what was I gonna say? Oh, are there any things about like yourself that you've learned to use on stage, like where it's like, oh, I can, if I make fun of this about myself, people laugh? I'm sure you figure those things out. I probably have to say I'm like a white guy. I have to make fun of the fact that I'm a skinny white dude. Like, there's something there. I know it. It's got to be. You got to acknowledge. It's like 8 Mile. You got to acknowledge it before they acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You got to say it first. You ever do that? You ever self-deprecate yourself? You ever play the joke on yourself or no?
That's actually one of my staples. I mean, I do observational comedy. That would be the category. But more so, I do a lot of self-deprecating jokes. It just comes naturally to me. I do a lot when it comes to like being a parent or just, you know, certain parts of my appearance. Like I also have a bit too where I crack jokes about like being ashy, things like that. Just things where I feel like, but I'll pick things that I feel like is relatable to people though. Like it's not just going to be one specific demographic because at the end of the day, I'm here to make all types of people laugh. So I'm just mindful of that when I do jokes about myself, which is being intentional and picking things that everyone can kind of be seen.
Yeah, you got to pick on yourself correctly. Yeah, that's probably the hard part, is not going too hard.
Oh yeah.
You can't go that far with it. Can't hurt my own feelings now. We got to be careful here. It's like walking on ice. Okay. All right. And then with observational comedy. So like, again, like that's just looking around and picking things that you think are funny. Like that's kind of your general method. Like you just kind of find things in the world you think are funny.
Yeah, or even just like things that I've heard or that I've noticed that people are like talking a lot more about. So like that'll be the joke. So like when, you know, for example, Diddy was getting hit with all those charges, you know, that's when I would start to try to think about jokes, but more so taking it from an angle. It's like everybody's going to crack the joke about how he's a pedophile. Like, who cares about doing that?
Yeah.
But, you know, I did come up with a joke where it was more so about just what a liar he is. So, like, I did a bit where, like last month, for example, I said that, November has a lot of really stupid holidays like False Confessions Day. And I was like, who the fuck let P. Diddy start making up fucking holidays? Like, don't let that nigga nowhere near that shit. Like, that was my point. So, and I did get a lot of laughs with that because, like, when people hear Diddy and it comes to doing comedy, that's usually what people go with, his, like, perversion and all the allegations. But like, I'm like, fuck it, we can call this motherfucker a liar because a lot of things he did lie about. So,
False Confession Day. That's a good one. Yeah, you got to have your own Diddy bit. Yeah. And that's kind of hard. You got to like tee it up in your brain. So, and that's like one thing I feel like with comedy you'd have to do is you'd have to look at like public events in such a way like, oh, this is on everybody's mind. I can make a joke about this. I remember the day that Liam Payne died. I was at a comedy show and I found out from the comedian on stage. He made a joke about it. I found out through him making a joke. He said he went one direction and I think it was down.
Yeah, that was good. This is a nice variation of that joke.
And that's how I found out was that joke. So, it's kind of nice in that way. Keeping it current, keeping it with the times. But that's hard. That's like a comedy muscle too. And that's kind of like crowd work in a way. Like you kind of have to be ready for the moment. Like, because sometimes people will just make a joke about something. I imagine the day that like the Trump assassination thing happened, every comedy show you went to, they had to mention it. Like,
oh yeah.
You didn't make a joke about that. It's like, well, come on. You have to make a joke. It's right there. It happened today. Like that event, January 6th, they have you. Oh, well, I guess that was lockdown time, so it wasn't at the comedy shows. But they would have mentioned it if you would have went to a show that night.
Well, comedians that were doing like virtual shows definitely did touch on it.
Get down. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
We got cat technical difficulties. They were mentioning it in virtual shows.
Yeah, virtual shows. They would like maybe open up a virtual open mic with that, or even if it was an actual like paid show. A lot of comedians included that, in their sets. So
I knew it.
You had to get creative with it.
I knew it because everybody else is doing the same joke. Everybody has their like the easy joke, so you got to come up with the good one.
Yeah,
you got to come up with the perfect bit. What's another good thing that happened in the? I guess those are like the two like giant ones you have to joke about. Because anything else, I'm trying to think like a current event that happens where it's like everybody has to mention. I don't know about 9/11. Like when 9/11 happened, I don't know if they were like on the day of at the comedy mics. I think 9/11 in comparison, they probably weren't doing that. Maybe like a month later. Maybe a month later, they're like, all right, I guess we can mention it at the open mic now. Because even now, 9/11 jokes don't really fly. Ooh, you see what I did there?
Yep.
I didn't even do it on purpose, but as soon as it popped in my brain, that's
the perfect, mom and pop joke was talking about earlier. That would make a boomer smile in a way.
Yeah, and that's why I'm an old man. That's exactly why. Deep down, I love those jokes. But yeah. Interesting. How has comedy changed in the 5 years that you've done comedy? Like, has the scene here changed at all in that time, or has it kind of always been the same?
Well, I'll close out on this actually because I'm about to get a call from DCFS. I'll get my kid.
Oh yeah.
I would say in terms of changes, a lot. I have noticed that there are more venues that are willing to let comedians come in and host open mics and things like that, especially if it's a newer business, because I figure it's an opportunity to kind of spread the word and like generate more money when it comes to like drink specials and things like that. I would say that's how it's changed. And it's a good and a bad thing. It's good because it's more opportunities for comedians to put themselves out there and network, but can also be a bad thing in terms of like just more competition overall, if that makes sense. So like on the one hand, it can foster collaboration, and on the other hand, more competition and not always in a good way.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, people get a little more
how's it bad?
cutthroat.
Like what makes it bad?
Well, I would just say people get a lot more cutthroat in terms of like, if you're someone who's producing the open mic, then you might feel more pressure to, outcompete other people who are hosting a mic on the same night as you. Whereas maybe if it wasn't as competitive, you might look at it through a lens of maybe one day we both co-host the mic and we can generate more, popularity with our mic, or you know what I'm saying? You just shift from a collaborative mindset. So that's just one thing I've noticed.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame, because if everybody was collaborative, then people get the wrong idea, and they want. I think people have a good way to describe it is they have a poverty mindset, in the sense that, there's only so much for us to get here.
Yeah.
There's only so many people that we can entertain, or there's only so much time you can get on a stage, and I want to get as much of it as I can, rather than thinking we can all share that and we can all make that bigger together. Because if everybody did that, we could all be a lot more successful. It is true that some people make it to the top and some people are better. But if you work with everybody, then everybody has a better time. There's a win-win scenario if you want there to be. But a lot of the time, people are hard-headed and they just don't want to. That's a reason I like doing this. That's a reason I recommend podcasts to people, because it even helps build that community for people who are looking at you and the people who would follow you but they don't know where to find you and all that. If you have a group of people you'd like to do comedy with, the people that are in your writing workshop, you probably talk to them all the time anyway. If you just recorded a writing workshop, even that would be great stuff. That'd probably change the vibe up. But you get what I'm saying? It's that natural collaborative energy that truly is the fun thing for everybody. I like listening to podcasts for that reason. You're seeing people come together, but also it's in that moment, your ideas grow and you get better and you learn from those people by being collaborative. I'm showing you my comedy and then you help me make it better. And then, like you said, you go and you perform it and it is better. You can test it in real life and it works. And that is such a magical thing. You can't achieve it by yourself. You might think you can, but it's actually literally impossible.
Exactly.
Your ideas only get so much better by yourself. 2 brains are actually better than 1, folks. It's actually true. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I think that's a beautiful message to send at home at the end of the podcast, is that one right there. Because I truly religiously believe that. Seriously, you got to get out of your bunker sometimes, guys. I'm telling you, it's nice to see the sunlight and talk to people. It's actually really good for you.
Yes.
Touching grass is good advice, believe it or not. If you want to give them your social medias, anything like that, if you got a final message for them, now's your chance. You've got the floor. Tell all the people where they can find you and any other good stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is @Ginnel Moore. That's GINNEL MOORE. And I've performed at Second City, Lincoln Lodge, a lot of other really nice venues, of course. So, yes, again, come see me tonight is just my point, because, they don't just pick any old random Joe Schmo for those spots. So, come on and have a good time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, folks. And with that being said, Ruse Radio. Clocking out.
Got the world in my pocket, got a girl on my arm, got an eye in my socket, whirlwinds in my palms. I'm a free man, let me lead you along. I can show you something different, let me sing you a song. Ain't no algorithm touch me, ain't no palace this lovely. I find a way to find a way out.